Another thing which is traditional, and this may surprise you also, is a lot of the institutions, a lot of those things that were laid down by the Buddha 2,500 years ago, and some of the very important things also are more traditional than original Buddhism. And one good example is the Uposatha ceremony, the Uposatha observance that most monastics and also lay people do. The Uposatha observance follows the ancient lunar calendar that was in use in India 2,500 years ago and is still in use in many countries, although the solar calendar is now by far the most important one. And it followed the lunar calendar in such a way that on the full moon and the new moon and also the half moons, people would often go to the monastery, they would listen to a talk, they would keep precepts and do all these things were part of their religious observance. These were called observance days, Uposatha days. And these observance days were not originally part of the Buddhist tradition. They also go back to a time before the Buddha. And the story in the Vinaya is the disciplinary code for the monastics, the monks and the nuns, tells the story of how this Uposatha came to be here. And the story is roughly as follows. And this was the king of Magadha. Magadha is one of the ancient kingdoms in India, probably the most powerful kingdom at the time of the Buddha in northeast India. And this Magadha country had a king called Bimbisara. And this king Bimbisara very early on became a very close friend of the Buddha. He was a friend of the Buddha even before his enlightenment experience. So after the Buddha became enlightened, he taught King Bimbisara, and he gave him some teachings that were so powerful that King Bimbisara became a stream enterer upon listening to those teachings. And I find that so powerful, what a beautiful thing it is to have somebody like a king who is actually a stream enterer, somebody who understands the Dhamma very profoundly. It's a wonderful thing. Imagine if we had some politicians in our day who were stream enterers. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I'm not saying, I'm not one of those who thinks all politicians are bad, but imagine having them as stream mentors. That would be really, really powerful. But anyway, this king, he was a stream mentor, and he realized that all these other ascetics, of all these other sects, and at the time of the Buddha, there was enormous numbers of different types of religions, different philosophies, different systems of thought that was all across the north of India, people thinking in different ways, philosophizing about this, meditating in this way, practicing ascetic practices in that way. There was this kind of this enormous manifoldness when it came to religious practice. And King Bimbisara saw that many of these other religions, they would keep this Uposatha ceremony on the full moon nights and the new moon nights. And he saw how lay people were attracted to these ascetics and how they listened to their teachings on those full moon nights. So when he saw that, he went to the Buddha and said to the Buddha, he said, please, Bhante, why doesn't also the Buddhist monks do the same thing? Meet together on the Uposatha ceremony and then give talks to the lay Buddhist or whoever wants to come, so that they also can get inspiration in the Dhamma, get inspiration in these beautiful teachings.